This tutorial is part 2 of the Queen Revolve object. Let's first talk about this profile we're creating here for the Queen. I have all the dimensions in that are on the drawing, but with just the dimensions, it doesn't give you enough information to fully constrain everything. So it's very important that we are using constraints as well to do this. If I look down here at this lower part of the Queen, I have all my dimensions in, but I want to highlight and show you some of the constraints that are in here too. Between all the arcs, I have tangents that really serves the purpose of, one, constraining it, but two, it really smooths out the transitions from one arc to the other. And then I also have some vertical constraints in here. As you can see, the two endpoints of this arc, the two endpoints are vertical. That's an important one. Another one is this vertical for this arc between this endpoint and the center point. And I also have a horizontal between the same center point and the endpoint on this side. These are absolutely critical. If you don't have these, it's just simply not going to work. You're going to have green lines. It's not going to look right. The constraints are what tie everything together. Now let's go ahead and take a look a little bit further up at this mid area of the Queen. Now again, I have the dimensions in, and I haven't put any extra dimensions. I have only what the sheet gives me, which is the habit that you want to develop. Now if I drag a box over this, I can see I have lots of verticals and horizontals. I have a vertical and horizontal on this one, which essentially limits me to 90 degrees. But the more important thing is my endpoints can only be in one place, so it starts constraining me. This center point and this center point are on that larger 45 millimeter arc. What I did was, after I was all done with this, I split that arc and I made it a construction arc so that I could revolve this shape all in the same revolve. But getting back to the arcs, all these arcs have verticals and horizontals. This is what's holding it all together, and this is why I only need a few dimensions to make it all fully constrained. Essentially, I'm locating the center point and the end points of each of these arcs, and I'm giving the arc a size, and that's all the information I need. So this is really important. I want you guys to practice doing this. So essentially, between these two endpoints on this arc, the two endpoints and the center point are on the same vertical line. On this arc, I have a horizontal relationship and a vertical relationship, and that's the same or nearly the same on this one. This top one, I have a dimension from this center point to this end point. I have a dimension on the size of the circle, and all 3 points are on the larger 45 millimeter arc. Very simple, and that's the way we want to keep it. Lastly, on this top section, there is a 90-degree arc here held in place by a vertical constraint between the end point and the center point, and a horizontal constraint between the center point and this end point. That is what fully constrains this arc and this arc. And I do want to point out that there's a space here of 1 millimeter that's given to you. You need to put that in there, because if you don't, this top part will essentially fall off when it 3D prints, because there will be nothing attaching it to this arc. It'll just be sitting on top, if it can even print it. So it's really important that you put in all the dimensions as carefully as you can.